This video might get a little technical. What I mean is, I can't talk about how it feels to run in without breaking down exactly the midsole is made. Also, the Chaoying is an entirely new line from Li-Ning. Even for someone like me who's been wearing Li-Ning since elementary school 30 years ago, I'm new to this series too. Today, we are all new here. So let's start from zero.你们好，我是辉。I started this channel to review Chinese running products. More importantly, it's my way of forcing myself to practice spoken English. I'm self-sponsored and money doesn't grow on trees. Whether good or bad, I'm going to give you my honest take with no filters. Let's dive in from the specs. Unfortunately, the brand hasn't listed any official specs, and I can't find any reliable data either. Visually, the forefoot looks close to 30 mm, and the heel is wide, nearly 60 mm. But in reality, standing in them, it feels way less thick than the Red Hair 9 Ultra and Xiaodan. It's almost not as stacked as the Flame 5 Mix. I compared it with other shoes I have, and I can only give you an estimate. About 29 mm in the forefoot and 36 mm in the heel, with a 7 mm drop. From teardown videos by other creators, you can see the midsole side walls are pretty tall, and they wrapped all the way around. Your foot sits inside this frame. There's not too much to say about the upper. It's the usual TPU pressed monofilament, with a moderate low amount of padding around the collar and a thin tongue with gussets. It's definitely going for that speed trainer vibe. Li-Ning's toe box runs slightly narrow compared to other Chinese brands. With this shoe, I felt a bit of pressure on my big toes. The clearance across the top felt a little low for me. The laces have zero stretch. They don't loosen up a little over time and give your foot some room. Once they tight, they stay tight. So, I'd suggest not lacing them super tight at first. Otherwise, they will feel constricting the whole time. It also uses Li-Ning's high-grade GCU rubber with large cutouts to save weight. I put about 50 kilometers on them so far, and the wear is minimal. Durability looks solid. But from the side, you can see this GCU rubber is really thin, ratio thin. There's no extra thickness in the high wear areas either. One more thing, the Chaoying Pro has no heel counter, almost no structural support back here. So what do you guys think of its design philosophy so far? Before I bought it, I thought it was a max cushion shoe. But now, with the speed-oriented upper, the missing heel counter, and that super thin also, what kind of shoe do you think this is supposed to be? Today, for the details, we're only gonna talk about one thing, the midsole foam. No doubt, that translucent midsole is gonna make any running shoe geek think of the Brooks Glycerin Max. So let's start with how the Glycerin Max midsole is made. First, they inject the material for the translucent outer frame into a mold. Then they take that pre-frame out and put it into a second mold. They inject the colored material next, forming a pre-midsole. Next, the pre-midsole goes into a forming machine. Vacuum, heat, pressure, water cooling. Yeah, there are a few more steps, but we'll keep it simple. Boom! You get the final midsole you see on the shoe. This forming process is called dual mold dew density forming. That's how the Brooks Glycerin Max and basically all of Brooks shoes with that translucent look get their midsoles. So how did Li-Ning do it? They gave the outer frame 2 colors. On the Chaoying Pro, Li-Ning added a dyeing step so the translucent frame shows a second color inside. Then they put a piece of super boom foam inside that frame. From these pictures, the undyed frame and the super boom foam just look like a regular midsole foam. By dyeing the frame, Li-Ning makes the midsole look more special, and it also makes it easier to make different colorways of the shoe. But why Li-Ning go through all that theater? Let's put the Glycerin Max, Ghost 23, and the Chaoying Pro on the scale together. That weight gap is huge. Which leads to the next question. Why these 2 Brooks so heavy? Because their midsoles is made from EVA, supercritical EVA. Frame and crow, both supercritical EVA. So shading grams is tough. Li-Ning wanted that dew density look like the Glycerin Max, but also wanted a lighter shoe. So they had an idea. Keep the outer frame as supercritical EVA and put a P-Bax-based super boom foam inside. You all know the weight benefits of these super foams compared to EVA. Then Li-Ning probably thought, we are doing this cool dew density thing, people can't even see. How do we show it? Let's just dye the frame. And that's what you see now. I know some of you might be asking, why not just dye the super boom foam inside? Great question. Materials like PBA have tightly packed molecules, so dye can barely penetrate them. Also, their forming temperature is usually close to 200 degrees Celsius. Dye can't handle that. It discolors and fades. At current production costs, dyeing materials like PBA would make the shoe way too expensive. With that out of the way, let's talk about the pros and cons of actually running in it. If I had to describe the ride of this shoe in one sentence, for me, it's complicated, mixed feelings. It's a real good news, bad news situation. My running mechanic is midfoot landing, and then I push off. My running mechanic is midfoot landing, and then push off, using the ball of my forefoot. For any speed-focused workout, this part of form is everything to me. For me, in that final push-off phase with the ball of my foot, the forefoot foam feels a touch too soft. It feels kind of empty, not like it's gonna bottom out, but it doesn't feel substantial enough. Plus, the forefoot foam is part super boom foam and part EVA. It seems like some of the energy return gets dumped or sapped by the EVA. The rebound felt a little sluggish. It makes speed workouts feel like a little harder work. And because the forefoot foam is way softer than the heel, it compresses more under load, which makes the shoe feel like it has more drop than the 7mm. The back of the shoe is a bit blocky for me. I did 2 long runs in them, no hot spots, no irritation, but I still can't say I really enjoyed the ride. Like I mentioned, the heel foam is firmer, the forefoot softer. Let's bring back the Glycerin Max comparison for a sec. In this cross section, you can see the blue part of the Glycerin Max has denser, smaller cells. The white frame foam has bigger aerial cells. Basically, that means the forefoot is firmer and the heel is softer. I'd love for you all to sit with this for a second. Which setup makes more sense biomechanically? Firmer forefoot, softer heel, or the other way around? In my experience, especially on easy runs, Most people are heel strikers. A softer heel gives better cushioning. Then when you roll forward, a firmer forefoot helps deliver a cleaner, snappier toe-off. I can run LSD in the Chaoying Pro. I can cruise alone, soaking in the New Year street vibes, zone out a little. But whenever I pull my focus back to describe the shoe, something just feels off. After thinking it over, I believe this shoe works better for runners who rely on a heel-to-toe rolling gait cycle, people who don't actively push off the ground, like heel strikers with high cadence at easy pace, not stride runners who push harder off the ground. If that's you, the ride feels great, well-cushioned, lightweight, and versatile, great as a daily trainer or a max cushion option. The start of this year belongs to Li-Ning. Those two shoes with the innovative capsule tag made waves in running communities, both in the East and the West. And this Chaoying Pro might show us that not every innovation is a home run. I'm not saying putting super foam in is wrong. It's definitely better than EVA. I just think the placement of the soft and firm zones feels reversed. Even if they stick with the current forefoot soft, heel firm setup, the differences shouldn't be this big. For me, the transition just felt too jarring. But here is the exciting part. Dual mode, dual density forming process, like the Brooks Glycerin Max, is going to blow up this year. Back to 2022, a Chinese supplier in the footwear supply chain invented this process, and have been shopping it around to brands ever since. Back then, only 1 or 2 factories could pull it off, so costs were high. That's why it took a brand like Brooks, with a loyal following and a serious pricing power, to really bring it to the market. The DNA Tuned labeled on the shoe is honest, and thanks to Brooks tuning, they created a really seamless running experience that made dual mode, dual density forming process famous. After Brooks' success, more and more foam manufacturers starting to produce this kind of foam, which has driven the cost way down. This year, we are going to see lots of similar products from lots of brands, not Chinese brands. And it doesn't stop there. Innovations like the capsule, that polyurethane-coated foam tag, are also poised to blow up later this year or next. It all just comes down to cost. So runners, buckle up. Alright, that's all I've got for today. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about this shoe or tips for improving my English speaking. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I'll be bringing you more on Chinese running products. Follow if you are interested, and hope you have a good one.